Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I am your host, Mike Fisher, and today's guest is Mark Richards of Heavy Hand Illustration. Mark is kind of the big dog in the death metal illustration business these days, and he's a super nice guy. We're friends from that industry, and we're always like sharing information behind the scenes on pricing and what's going on in that business. I'm really happy he was able to come on. He's a cool guy. We talk about his band and we talk about the business of being a professional artist. And so it's really informative if you're somebody, even if you're not interested in death metal or death metal art, there's still a lot of good information about being a professional illustrator. So I hope people will listen. If you are watching the YouTube version, please give us a like and a subscribe and hit the little bell and all the little things that we always ask you to do every week so that you can keep getting content from us. And sharing this word of mouth is like a huge help to us for this show to keep making episodes and having on cool guests and growing the channel. It all helps. And if you are listening to the podcast version, give us a like and a review wherever it is that you are listening to this. If it's on iTunes, you can give us a 5-star review and a written review. Apple really cares about that stuff quite a lot. So any of that we get is like a super big help. You can follow us on social media at Anyway Whatever Podcast on Instagram, AWP_podcast on Twitter. My personal art Instagram is at Maximum Fluoride. And, we're on Facebook at Anyway Whatever, all of that different stuff to keep informed on what we got going on. And I hope that people find what me and Mark talk about today informative, because it's a lot of good stuff about what it's like to be an actual artist and try to pay your bills with it. So, stick around. Hey everybody, welcome back to the Anyway Whatever podcast. I'm your host, Mike Fisher, and today's guest is Mark Richards of Heavy Hand Illustration. What's up, dude?
Not much, just, staying busy.
Totally. We were just chatting a little bit before we got started, and we were talking about weather, and he was saying that it was mild in Boston. He's out in Boston. It's kind of the same here today in California. It's like, I think in LA, it's like 72, but like 4 days ago it was like 105. So I'm just enjoying it.
I hear you. That's the weather out here is just all over the place. So any day could be 70, could be 90, could be 80, could be raining, or we'll get like full seasons in one day. It's it's pretty fun.
Yeah. California's got 2 seasons, summer and like fall, and then that's like all you get all year.
I would rather deal with that, but
right. Like I could Mark lived out here in Southern California for a while. So he's gotten a taste of the weather. I don't think I could ever live anywhere where it snows. It's too much. I'm a California kid, like through and through.
Yeah. Being out there for 2 years softened me up big time. So coming back to the inclement, vicious New England weather was not too fun, but we didn't get too much snow. The snow isn't really what bothers me too much. It's just the people who just don't know how to drive in it.
Right. I would be that person.
Yeah, but you'd probably be going slow and cautious, whereas people here are like tailgating everybody at 80 miles per hour when it's slushy and icy. But
totally.
The bitter cold and the harsh winds that just cut right through you, that's what is the least fun.
Yeah, no, that's not for me. So I want to let you get your social media shout outs up front, like I do with everybody. Where can people find your work?
All right. Mainly Instagram. That's my biggest outlet, at heavy.hand. And then Facebook at Heavy Hand Illustration. And that's pretty much it.
And then you have a big cartel. You got your shop, right?
Yeah, I got a pretty vast shop, shopheavyhand.com. There's tons of stuff on there between t-shirts, hoodies, pillows, stickers, prints, leggings, shorts, face
Dude.
masks for the current state of the world, you know?
Those shorts, the men's shorts, the skull shorts, those are fantastic. Mark is in the extreme metal world. There's like a wave that goes up and down with different artists who are kind of hot for the industry. And Mark has been on the highest, longest wave of that I think I've ever seen in the 30 years that I've been doing this. It seems to be like people are the flavor of the month for like 2 years, like Florian Bertmer, who's amazing. Like everybody who's ever been on the wave is totally amazing. And then you had like Baisley and all of these people. And man, you've been, because me and Mark, I don't do much metal stuff anymore. I got drugged back over into the punk world. Because I think even my scary art is a little too much cartoonishness to it. So I was never super successful as a metal artist. I think my stuff was just a little too funny. But me and Mark do share clients, and we share merch companies that we work for. And so we're always in contact with each other about work stuff. And you've just been insanely busy for so long, dude. It's incredible to watch.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm just, it's my true passion, and it's what I've always wanted to do. And I'm hungry, and I never want to just rest on my laurels. If I start to feel too comfortable, I need to shake things up for myself and make it just jarring, whether it's like with technique or how much time I'm putting into something, the subject matter, because it's just, there are so many amazing artists coming out every day. And some of those young, really hungry artists who, don't really know the ins and outs of the business yet will be willing to do something for, like $50 to $100.
All right.
And it's something that I would charge exponentially more than that. And it would take me 6 months to do because I have such a built up clientele list,
Right. Sure.
So I just gotta
that's a thing that me and you talk about quite a bit, is like competing with, especially designers overseas in Asia that, there's cost of living is nothing, and they can do the same level of work that a lot of us over here can do for way less money. And so I know for sure there are clients that I've had, like big name death metal bands, that they're just like, I talk to them, they're like, dude, I'm sorry, I can't pay you what you deserve to be paid, because I can get that quality of work for a fraction of the price overseas. And and I get it. Being in a band, it's like, it's an expensive hobby for 99% of death metal and like extreme metal bands. So I get it. They don't want to pay more than they have to,
Yep. Yeah, you essentially need to be able to put yourself out there like, hey, no one can do what I'm doing. So you can, cut costs and get something that's still going to be good, but it's going to be like store brand versus Coca-Cola.
Right.
Not to like,
right.
And I don't want to sound like I have an ego about it, but I'm just, I put my all into every piece.
You can have an ego about it. Your stuff's better than almost everybody else. And it's gotten so much better, so much faster than anybody I think I've ever seen. Like, you went from like, wow, that dude's really good, to like everything you were doing, I was like, ugh, okay, I need to find a new client base, because Mark's going to get everybody's business, to the point where you just did the new DIS record cover.
Yeah.
And, even when I was in that band, I couldn't have done what you did for them.
Yeah, that took a long time. I stopped paying attention to how many hours I put into it after like hour 50, I think.
Yeah.
It's just like, it's mind numbing.
It's amazing. One of the things I do for the YouTube channel is I put up the art we're talking about while we're talking about, so people can see. So I'll be putting up different stuff of yours while we go through, to show people, just how amazing the stuff that you do is. And I love that you've taken the initiative to make a store that has so many different diverse products in it, from the leggings to all that stuff. And you know, if you're into like horror stuff and skulls and bloody eyeballs and all of that stuff, you got to go check out Mark's store, because he like covers the whole gamut of stuff. And one of the things that I've always liked about how you run your illustration business is that you have a sense of humor as a person. And so everything you do, no matter how serious the subject matter seems to be, is you as a person always market yourself and your art with this sense of humor that is fucking awesome.
Thank you.
It cracks me
up.
That's,
I mean, yeah, it's having a sense of humor is one of the most important things to me. And if I can't make myself laugh, I'm just like, I don't know, I could do better, I guess.
Dude, totally. I mean, it especially, you know, it's like that's one of the things that about like the music scene that we're kind of into, like the grind and death metal, is pretty much everybody's funny. Like, you know, it's like such a serious like subject matter, and the music itself sounds so serious, but everybody's funny.
Yeah,
like, almost everybody's funny.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, whether it's intentional or not.
Dude, totally. So you are in a grind band, like a death grind band.
Yep.
What's that band?
It's called Stagnator.
Right.
Yeah. We started in October, technically. And that came from, there was an old band I was in before I moved out to California called Immobilize. And so it's all the same guys minus one of the guitarists. I don't know how in depth we want to go with that, but some really messed up stuff happened. And so he's out. We decided to disband because the name was tarnished, and we came up with Stagnator. We wrote like 8 songs within, I think, 3 or 4 weeks, recorded them a month later, put the demo out. And now we just recorded right before the pandemic hit. We recorded material for 2 splits, which is going to be coming out in September with a sludge band from Providence called Sidorak. And the other one, I'm not really sure when it's going to happen, but hopefully sometime in the fall. But we've just been plugging away as much as possible.
Yeah, the Stagnator stuff. I was expecting more of a. There's like for people who aren't super versed in the death metal world, there's been a resurgence in kind of retro 90s death metal, and so I was kind of expecting that a little bit from Stagnator. And then when I listened to it, I was like, oh, wow, this is like way closer to like Phobia and Insect Warfare grind than it is that neo, death metal. And I absolutely love that, your band, dude. They're so killer.
Thank you. Yeah, we're just all about making the most vicious, relentless, unsettling stuff. It's definitely the darkest band I've ever been in, and the fastest. And
yeah, it's fast.
Also the most efficient. I just I can't believe how much we've done so far, but like the best group of 5 people who could work together. So it's been awesome.
That's always nice when you get the right group and everybody's like seasoned and shows up kind of knowing what they're doing. That it makes everybody's life so much more simple. Because I always equate being in a band to like trying to be in like 4 relationships at the same time, and the less drama and personality issues you can bring to rehearsal and writing and recording, the better off it is for everybody.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, you always need 1 or 2 people who like take the reins for the most part, just as long as you're being respectful of everybody else.
Sure.
And, everyone's always got their ideas. We don't really butt heads on anything at all. It's because it's just, we just pump the stuff out and we're all just like, all right, this is cool. Let's just keep going.
And you're playing guitar in that band, right? And doing backing vocals?
Yeah. And backing vocals is kind of a loose term because our vocalist, Kyle, I'm going to call him out right now. He probably gives me more stuff to do than himself, but I kind of asked for it anyway because I'm a workhorse and I just always want to be pushing off as much as possible.
Yeah, it's familiar.
But yeah, the dual vocal attack has been awesome. It's been like probably my favorite aspect of the band at this point.
Yeah, even to the point where there's some like Weekend Nacho style like kind of power violence vocals in there too, which I'm personally like power violence. Like I'm like a grind PV guy because ever since I was like a little kid in the 80s and I got into hardcore punk, it was always about the fastest bands for me. Like whatever bands were going the fastest, I was into, like Siege and, you know, Septic Death and Deep Wound and those bands that were just like going way. So when grind happened, like in the later 80s, it was, I bought in immediately and I just kind of always kept going down that same path. So you guys are right in the pocket for me with all that.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
So you were relentless in your illustration commissions where you're just like, I mean, it's like a constant. And then I saw that recently you have started tattooing, and how long did you apprentice and how far along and everything are you with that?
Pretty much. So the day before I left California, I had a discussion with my buddy Mark Blanchard. He's actually the drummer in Stagnator too.
Okay.
So we talked about the band, and then I was like, also, what's up with that apprenticeship that we talked about? And he said, yeah, that's the next thing I was going to mention. So pretty much like I moved back and I got a car, I hung out with some friends and family, and then I was just right into it, like early September. And so September through February, pretty much just like doing paperwork, getting certifications, doing all the really tedious stuff that you have to do.
Sure.
And then February 1st, I started actually tattooing, and I'm still an apprentice. You know, you have to do a lot of tattooing before you can become fully licensed.
Sure.
So from February 1st to March 16th, I was tattooing essentially 5 days a week. And then the pandemic hit, and I just got back into it, not this past Monday, but the Monday prior. So it's been like a cumulative 2 months of actual tattooing.
Yeah. Like your work is like, I was going through your Instagram. Like I follow your Instagram, you know, pretty regularly anyway, but I was going through and I was like, of course you can tattoo really well straight away. Of course you're that fucking guy.
Yeah. There's a lot of people who are upset with me, but that's cool. I mean, I understand. I've been a professional illustrator for so long, and I live and I breathe it. And Mark is an excellent teacher and just like hammers things into me. So, I mean, and you know, there's still so much work to be done. Sure. But it is pretty funny, you know, how many people have been like, that's not, you didn't just start doing this. Like, I did. But you know, it's like I take direction well, and I just I'm learning how to finesse it and, you know, all that stuff. But yeah, it's a tough gig. It's not easy. And I don't want anyone to think that the transition from illustration to tattooing is easy.
Right.
Because people just thought like, oh, you're an illustrator, so you'll be good at it. I said, well, not necessarily, because you're dealing with so many different factors.
Right.
But I'm pretty happy with the progress I've made so far, but I will never be happy enough.
Yeah, well, that's why people like you and me keep making art. And it's the reason why we've decided to be professionals and not ever let the profession of being a professional artist beat us into submission, because a lot of people aren't cut out for this. It's not for people who want a comfortable, easy life. You have to work all the time. And people, I talk about that on the show a lot, where people are like, well, you're lucky you have a fun job. And it's like, you have no idea how much work you have to do to be able to put food on the table, pay your rent, and do all that stuff. And it's like, you know, it is a fun job. It is a super fun job. But you know, we worked really hard to get good enough to be professionals. And then you have to stay on top of it. Like it's ridiculous how much, I mean, it's like 12-hour days every single day, if you're lucky. You know what I mean? It's like,
yeah, definitely.
I might go a month without taking any day off. You know what I mean? Like I might work for 30 straight days without, like, you know, taking a day off to like go to the beach or go see a movie or whatever. Like it's crazy. And then
what goes into it.
I can imagine with taking on tattooing on top of that, have you had to slow down your commissions to allow you the time during the day to be in the tattoo shop?
Yeah, big time. And you know, I made an announcement like a week or so ago that my illustration commissions are officially closed. I've closed them before, but I've never publicized it because every now and then you'll get an offer for a job that you just can't pass up. And you're like, you know what? I'll figure it out. I just won't sleep for a week and,
Right.
you know, just mainline coffee. But,
Right.
it's just, you know, tattooing is what I really want to do for the rest of my life. I will always be an illustrator, but taking on commissions is just like, it's like giving myself short consecutive prison sentences where I'm just like, there's no end, and there's always more work than you think. So
Yeah.
I just said, you know what, I'm closing it. I don't care if I get any dream jobs. And, there's a few clients who I've always worked with who are willing to work with my time frames and everything. So they'll always get a pass. Like my buddies in Zoth here. They're one of my favorite clients. But yeah, anywho.
Yeah,
So,
no, I totally get that. I'm kind of going through that. My story, as it somewhat relates, is that I got to the point with my illustration where I was like, I need to find something else to do on top of this, because I'm just not able to make enough for how much I'm working. And so I was like, either I'm going to learn how to tattoo, or I'm going to have to figure something else out. So I looked into tattooing, and because it's like, I'm sure you have heard all of your life, like, oh, why don't you tattoo? I'm surprised you don't tattoo. Like for years, just like
Yeah.
people, like if I had a nickel for every time I heard that, I wouldn't have to ever draw anything ever again.
Yeah,
And then
same.
I talked to all my friends who were tattoo artists, and I was like, the consensus definitely was, you're going to have to apprentice and not really make any money for like a year or so. And I was like,
Yep.
well, that's not an option. Like I can't do that. And I have nothing but respect for the tattoo industry and all of the traditions and all of the rules that are involved in that industry. I completely understand it. It's just, that's just not for me. So I started airbrushing. I started airbrushing ice hockey goalie masks, because, I've been a goalie my whole life, and I painted some years ago. So I was like, okay, this is something I can just start doing right now. And so I got super, involved in doing that. And I did that for about 7 years, like as pretty much as a full-time gig. It took over my life immediately. And now I'm like, well, I don't want to do that anymore. Because that's how I am. Like every 5 or so years, I'm like, whatever it is I'm doing. Like for a while, it was like I was just painting, and then I got to the point where I was like, I don't want to paint anymore. So I'm like at the point where I'm like, I don't want to paint goalie masks anymore. And so I'm like in that same exact place where you are, where I'm like, I have essentially shut down my commissions, but then there are people who are like, I can't say no to them, because they're friends or they're people that I've been painting masks for a long time. Like there's a kid that I started painting his mask when he was in juniors, and then he went into like major juniors, and now he's going to go into NCAA at Colgate, and he's like, dude, I need a mask for, and I was like, I don't want to do it.
Yeah.
So I totally feel where you're at with that, where you're like, it's like, I can't imagine a day where I won't paint goalie masks at all. But
Yeah. You need a break.
I'm trying to get rid of it. So now my new thing is, this podcast is like one of my new things. And then I kind of want to start like a YouTube channel, an art channel on YouTube. 'Cause that seems like that would be a fun way to have to make something new, like every day or every week, that you could then, gets used for something. Because the main record label that I worked for like the last 5 years is like on hiatus. So my illustration and design work kind of slowed down, and nobody's touring, so there's no tour merch to do right now. So it's like, I need some reason to keep making art on top of doing this show. So that's kind of, I think, where I'm going to go next. And it'll give me a chance to do all kinds of stuff. I can paint a goalie mask and just film it and put that up. I can do a painting. I can do a drawing, whatever it is I'm going to do. And then it has some intended use.
Yeah, I hear you.
Because that's one of the things that is hard for me is doing art for myself. For so many years, everything was for something. That doing something that's not for something is super weird. Like just sitting down and drawing something for the fun of drawing it. Like I struggle with that. It's super hard.
I cannot tell you the last time that I drew something for myself. I mean, sometimes I'll get to do my own ideas for certain projects that no one can tell me what to do.
Sure.
Which is great, but there's always a purpose for it, whether it's like a gallery submission or something that's going to go in a book or whatever. But like, yeah, I think there was one time a few months ago, I was like, you know what, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to draw something for myself. And I had nothing. Even though I have like this huge list of ideas, I was like, no, I need to just sit. I need to like watch TV or play video games or something and like just disconnect from art for a little bit,
Yeah, dude, I totally get that. I was in the games industry for a long time. That's how I kind of, made money as an artist to raise my family. And so when I quit that industry, I was so burnt. I didn't play games for like a decade. And I just bought a PS4 like a year and a half ago. And I've just started playing games again, just, as for the exact same reason, like get my head out of the art space and do something that forever for me, it was, playing hockey, like when I'm in goal, like I don't think about anything. I don't think about art. I'm not thinking about anything. It's like disconnect for an hour. Or when I'm skateboarding, like when I'm at a park, like I can be in a bowl for like, a half a day. And it's the same thing. I'm not thinking about my work stuff, but I'm, hockey's closed down right now and I haven't skated in forever. And so it's like just playing some games and like, watching movies that I love to help refill the brain pan with ideas and inspiration and just, that shit is like super important to us.
Yeah, definitely. You need to have some sort of disconnect so you can just, get right back into it and not feel too burnt out.
Right, for sure. One of the things, like I always mention, like I send all of my guests like a form to fill out of stuff that we can talk about. One of the things you put down that I had never known about until you put it on the sheet was the Metalhead Box subscription.
Yep. Yeah, I've been doing work regularly for them for about 2 years, and every time they come to me with something, like there's maybe only been one or two projects that like they're not my favorite band, but I'm still pumped to do work for.
Sure.
And I kind of get to do, it's like 75% what I want to do. But yeah, they have been consistently hooking me up with dream bands to work for, and it's awesome. They're one of the people I will always do work for as long as they have it for me. So
to explain to people who might not know what that is, the Metalhead Box subscription is, if you're not familiar with these subscription box companies, like there's one that my son does. It's called a loot box, and it's like you pay like $30 a month, and once a month you get a box full of stuff. And I think there's all different types of genres of stuff, and this one happens to be a heavy metal subscription. So you get like a record or two records or a record and a t-shirt. And then I assume there's like stickers and other stuff that goes inside the box.
Yeah. There's a bunch of, if you search for the Metalhead Box on YouTube, you'll see a bunch of people unboxing, and it's pretty crazy to see, like, there will be some people who, they listen to a handful of metal bands, and this is a way for them to get into the more underground and or classic stuff. And then there's people who have been listening to metal their entire lives, but, still just want the stuff. Metalheads love merch.
Oh, especially vinyl.
And, yeah. And, I mean, like, I love being able to do t-shirt designs for death metal bands that I've been listening to forever.
Yeah.
One of the most recent ones that I did was for Gorguts, who have been like top tier for me forever. And, I got to play a show with them, and, meet Luke LeMay a few times. He's a really nice guy. And I'd always given him a business card every time I met him. And I mean, my stuff is a lot more gruesome than they're used to.
Sure.
So I understand why they didn't get in touch. But then when the Metalhead Box was like, hey, we got Gorguts here. And I'm like, all right. Yeah. And what's really funny is that when they sent me the email, I was sitting in a bar with two of my friends, and I was like, that's it. I'm done with commissions. I'm done. I'm not doing any more until I get everything that's on the docket done, because I was like really gearing up to start tattoo within like a month of that.
Sure.
And the email came up, and I was like, all right, well, I guess I'm not done taking commissions. But yeah, they're really nice people, and people love the subscription. So, it's a solid way to find out about, new bands, old bands, or just, get a bunch of exclusive merch that you can't anywhere else. So I'm happy to do work for them.
Yeah. So does that work in this, like, are they hooked up with different labels, and then the label gives that, like, is it connected to the different metal labels, or how do the subscription company come by the bands and all that stuff? Do you know how that side of it works?
Not 100%. I mean, I know that they speak directly with a lot of the bands. Sometimes they'll just have the bands get in touch with me. And sometimes they'll be just like the middleman. So I know that for a lot of this stuff, they're not even dealing with labels.
Okay.
But they have so many different products that I'm sure that they will deal with labels a lot, distribution companies and, merchandising companies and stuff like that, to make sure that the licensing rights are in order.
Yeah.
And all that.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I guess I kind of assumed it was through the labels, but that's awesome that it's just independent to the bands and stuff.
Yeah.
So when you get paid, do you get paid by the band, or do you get paid by the subscription company?
I just charge a flat rate for each design. So they just pay me the exact amount for every single one. They're kind of just like locked into that.
Oh, okay. So it's through the actual subscription company.
Yes, correct.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. If anybody's into the extreme metal and wants to check that out, you should definitely check out the Metalhead Box subscription. It's amazingly cool, and I'm totally going to subscribe to it now, because like I like every other extreme metal person, like I like having vinyl. I like having vinyl, and one of the great things, extreme metal as a genre, there isn't a ton of money involved in it, and there never has been. So a lot of times guys like me and Mark, we'll get paid a certain amount in cash, and then like a certain amount in merchandise. And so like it's like always like, you just skip records. I did some stuff for Black House Records, and they sent me the biggest box of records and CDs. And I was like, yeah, it's like, the money's great. I want to pay my rent, but you know what? I got all these cool records.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you just want the physical product,
Yeah.
These days though, I mean, just as long as I get, if I'm doing a t-shirt design for a band or a company that I thoroughly enjoy, I just want one of each thing
always
that's printed on.
Yeah, always.
But unfortunately, I can't pay the bills with merch.
No.
So I usually, there's probably one or two people I've worked with in the last like 5 years that I've done kind of like a half cash, half merchandise trade.
Sure.
So
yeah, I always try to get one of everything that my art appears on. Like that's just like a given for sure. I think one time when I was just kind of getting started, in this, like in the early 2000s, I did some stuff for Deceased. I did a record cover, Behind the Mourner's Veil. I colorized that and did like a little bit of the cover layout on an Alan Kay drawing. And Kingsley just was like, hey, I'm just going to have Relapse send you the entire catalog of CDs. And I was like, nice. Okay, cool. Yep. And so I was like, I was working in the games industry, and I was making more than enough money. And so I was like, that is a totally fair trade. I would never drop the money to buy the entire Relapse catalog. So I'm kind of coming out on top in that regard. But yeah, that's like a whole thing. Getting stuff.
Yep. Stuff is cool.
Everybody loves the swag. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So
one of the other things you mentioned, is you've been doing some work for Creature Skateboards?
Yeah. So, one of the guys from Creature hit me up, last summer, I think. And I got 3 board designs done. Like it's a graveyard series thing.
Sure.
And I've done in September, and it finally just got released maybe like 2 weeks ago. Holding on to those designs without like showing them off everywhere was one of the most difficult things. And so they sent me a box full of the designs. So I have the 3 decks right next to me right now if you want to see it.
Oh yeah, I would love to. Of course.
So they're still in the shrink wrap. So hopefully there's not too much glare. Yeah, there is a lot of glare, but I mean you can see them on the creature site.
Yeah. I can kind of get a sense of what's going on there. That's amazing. Dude, yeah, those are gnarly.
Yeah, and so that's like the centerpiece. We did like one big continuous graveyard scene.
Sure.
And then we got this big Cyclops guy.
Dude.
That was a fun one.
It's so rad.
And then my personal favorite is this Reaper on a horse made out of human corpses.
Dude.
Unfortunately, the creature logo is covering. I mean, it's just like a little placard thing in the shrink wrap.
Oh, right. It's like a little sticker.
Yeah, but you can see the artwork on my Instagram, and you can zoom in and see all the dead baby heads and eyeballs and human parts sticking out. But yeah, it was cool. They were just like, yeah, we love your work, so why don't we just come up with something ridiculous? And I always have. It's just like a hornet's nest full of gruesome stuff. So I was like, yeah, I have 8 million ideas. So here we go. And so, yeah, I was pumped about that. And now I'm doing another one for a pro skateboarder from Norway, I believe now. So that's
for
in
Creature?
progress. Yep.
Yeah, I know who you're talking about, and his name's not coming up right now, but that kid rips. He was on. I think he was on the last season or the season before of what's the Vice show? God, I'm terrible when I'm on camera, pulling names out of thin air. It's the Thrasher TV show on Vice. I'll post the logo for it up above. But yeah, that kid rips. Yeah. And I at 2 different points over the last 20 years was asked to send sketches to Creature. And nothing ever came of either of those projects. And the last one was they did a board for High on Fire, and the High on Fire guys were like, "Hey, you want to do a board?" And I was like, fuck yeah, I do. I want to do a Creature board for High on Fire. Fuck yeah. And High on Fire is my favorite band, and I'm so fortunate that I've been able to do so many shirt designs for them over the years that, I was like, and then, Creature ended up going with Skinner's thing for it, which is, I'm not going to argue against that.
Yeah.
That dude's art is so rad. So yeah, like twice I almost got in at Creature and it just didn't happen. So I wasn't surprised to see your stuff, going up on some Creature decks, because it's like, it's like a perfect fit. Creature's like the death metal skateboard company.
Oh yeah. And it's definitely a bucket list item. I mean, I've never been a skateboarder. I've always wanted to be, but I couldn't even, I could not even put 2 feet on a skateboard without falling on my ass. So, I'd watch a bunch of skate videos and follow the culture when I was younger.
Sure.
And just seeing all the graphics and everything is just so cool. So when they hit me up, I was just like, all right, yeah, this is, and it was like right when I was like, I feel like I need like another next level client to pop up. And it just happened.
There you go. That's how it's chaos magic, bro.
Yeah,
that's how that shit works.
Quantum mechanics and all that.
Yeah, all that shit. We're me and my wife we're big fans of all that shit. Like we totally read books and watch TV and shit about that stuff all the time. I call it chaos magic and she calls it quantum physics.
I'm gonna go with chaos magic. I like that.
Yeah, fuck yeah. It's way more metal. King of the Road is the TV show I was talking about. The Thrasher TV show. If you haven't ever watched it, it's like Jackass and Survivor turned into a TV show. It's like skate teams go on tour and they have to do certain things in certain cities to get points. And then at the end of the 2-week tour, whichever team has the most points wins the contest. It is an amazing show because it's hilarious. because skateboarders in general tend to be hilarious people. And it is, if you like skateboarding, it's just like they have these dudes doing gnarly shit. And then it's like stunts too. It's like you have to make out with one girl in every city to get like, you know, a total of 10 points at the end. And so like, you know, it's like you have to shit in a diaper or whatever it is. And so there's like stunts and then there's skateboard stuff, and it's such a good show. It's so funny. And I don't know if it's going to be back. It started just as like a video series for Thrasher, and then it went to YouTube, and then Vice picked it up and they did a couple seasons of it on Vice and re-aired some of the YouTube ones. But it's like my favorite show on TV. And I hope it comes back.
I'll definitely check that out. It sounds great.
Yeah. So the Creature team's been on there a couple times, and you know, those dudes are, you know, they're different types of skateboarders, and they are definitely my type. I'm like not a kick flipping technical type of skateboarder. I'm definitely more of a park skater, you know, big gnarly stuff rather than technical stuff. So yeah, skateboard culture is a thing. And I've probably designed 20 different skateboards for different skateboard companies over the years. It's just funny that none of them have been Creature.
Yeah, right.
So, totally random thing. One of the things I love about doing this show is talking to people. We kind of covered a little bit of it where there's something that you do creatively that is well outside of your normal area of creation, and you put on your sheet that you like to cook. So you're like a home chef type of dude?
I guess so. I kind of I'd like to call myself like a scrappy cook. I just get ideas and I'm like, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna make this. So it kind of started when I moved to California. I was like, wow, I can grill outside every day.
Yeah.
So that's what I did. And you know, I was like, yeah, cooking like chicken and vegetables or steak, burgers, pork chops, like that's cool, but I wanted to take it to the next level. And actually one of the first things, I mean, it's just a crock pot thing, but I made some carnitas for the first time. I'd never cooked any pork prior, but I just looked up some random recipes, and I found one. I'm like, I feel like there's not enough stuff in here. So I was like, you know what? I'm just going to put a bunch of shit in the crock pot with like, you know, a good pork butt. And, you know, I made it and I fed it to my ex, who was like the biggest carnitas fan. And she was like, this is the best that I've ever had. And I felt like she was kind of biased, you know, and then I made it for other people and they were like, holy shit, this is really good. So that became a signature dish. And then, you know, so I was just cooking every day out in California. And then when I moved back, I was so wrapped up with, you know, just being back home. And I was just hardly ever actually home. I was kind of living like a nomadic lifestyle, hopping from friend's couch to couch, because where I live is in the boonies and it's so far away from everything that I need to do. So once the pandemic hit and I was stuck at home, I was like, all right, I'm gonna start cooking again, and I'm gonna get kind of fancy with this stuff. So as a way to, you know, kind of keep connected with some of my friends and you just have something fun for us to look forward to, we did kind of like a food share thing. So I started with the carnitas, and they really liked that. And then I don't remember the exact progression, but at one point I did some barbacoa that was like a very long process. It took like probably 2 to 3 hours worth of prep.
Wow.
And then eight hours of actual cooking. And while that's cooking, I'm like making fresh avocado crema and street corn. And I did such a good job that it was like right before my mom's birthday. And she's like, the only thing I want for my birthday is that barbacoa. So it's like, all right, I guess I'm making some barbacoa. And I did like a little Instagram story cooking show, and I just got hammered throughout the process. It was like, in between each step, it's like, you know, treat yourself to a beer. So I just chug a beer. And by the time it was time to sit down, I was just like, all right, well, I'm ripe. But, and then one of the, I love Indian food and Thai food and everything. So I decided, you know what, I'm going to make chicken tikka masala. And that came out pretty damn good. Not up to my standard. I wanted a little bit more savory and spicier. So I'm going to be perfecting that a little bit more. Panang curry is another one of my favorite dishes, so I tried that. It came out okay. Some of my friends said it was their favorite that they've had, but it was not what I wanted it to be, so I'm going to keep working on that. And then the big hit, which is like the least good for you thing that I've cooked so far, is bacon buffalo chicken mac and cheese.
Ooh.
Yeah, with a lot of cheese. There's like probably 7 different types of cheeses, but it all blends together really well. And the thing that really
is that a crock pot thing?
No, that was all. Well, the chicken was in a crock pot, and I shredded it.
Sure.
Well, actually, I should say my mom shredded it. She was like, "Oh, I've got like 3 pounds of frozen chicken that you can have." I was like, "All right, good. I don't have to worry about that aspect." But I just made it in a gas pot. But there's some stuff that I would have to do in a pan. Essentially, when I'm cooking it, just like it's like one of those Iron Chef shows where they're sweating and swearing and running back and forth and dropping shit everywhere. So yeah, it was a fun time. But the thing that really sold it for some of my friends was the topping. Instead of just like putting Ritz crackers on there or something, sautéed panko breadcrumbs with chickpea crumbles and crushed up Doritos.
Wow.
So crushed up Doritos, that was the chef kiss right there. But everybody was like, dude, this is the best buffalo chicken mac and cheese I've ever had, and I want it more. And several of my friends have been like, yo, when are you making that again? So yeah, cooking is really fun for me. It's a good way for me to remain creative and put some pressure on myself, but also just have a disconnect from art and music that's just really, really fun, really engaging.
Yeah, dude, totally. Because I'm literally exactly the same thing. Like, I love to cook, and most of the time I'm just taking something and making it a better version of something that already exists. But I've mentioned this a couple of times on the show. About 15 years ago, I had an art show in Oklahoma City, and I went out, and the guy who kind of hosted me at his place was like a competition level barbecue guy. And so he made ribs and pork butt and stuff on his smoker. And it was so good that I was like, well, I got to learn how to do this. And so smoking meat has been my hobby for like the last 15 years. And so I totally get it. It's like, you can kind of do the same thing that you do with your daily art stuff, but put it into food. And it's another thing that I've kind of a quote that I've mentioned before is, my favorite cooking show is, Good Eats with Alton Brown. And one of the things I like about that show is that it tells you why you're doing what you're doing instead of just here's the ingredients. And this is how he explains like the science and the reason behind you're doing what you're doing. And one of the things that he said once was, he said, you just never miss an opportunity to add flavor to whatever it is that you're making at the moment. And so I kind of applied that to my art too, where it's like, just every time I look at something and I'm like, okay, I'm done with this bit of it. Is there any place I can add flavor to this before I move on to the next spot? And I just always thought that was like just in any creative endeavor, such as a good mindset to have, like, how can I add flavor to this before I move on to the next step, And I get that big time with cooking. And it, like you, like, it's like, it kind of started my kid's mother. She wasn't a cook, and she wasn't particularly interested in getting good at it. And that's not, it's no slam. Some people it's not something that they're interested in. So I became the cook in the family, and like every Sunday, the entirety of my children's lives, there was Sunday dinner. And so I would just find some wacky recipe and I'd make it. And so I got pretty good at cooking, and then I got into the crock pot thing. And so like that dude, like we're on the same wavelength there. Now you got to get a smoker and you got to learn how to smoke meat.
I mean, I'll just add it to the list of things I have to do, I guess. But actually, one of the things that I really wish that I got to do when I was in California, since I had moved up to Camarillo, I was going to be closer to you. And I was like, I really want to go barbecue with Mike. I never got to, because it's like there's there was no time.
Well, me and you
So,
we kept running into the same problem where we're both working 14 hours a day.
yeah,
You know what I mean? And so it's like,
Yep.
being in Los Angeles, pretty much everybody comes through at one point or another for some reason. And like, I'm always get secretly annoyed that nobody hits me up when they're here. But I also know that I'm just totally not going to, I'm totally not going to take the time to see them. Not because I don't want to, but because I just don't have, I'm so busy. The goalie mask business decimated my personal life. Like, I stopped going out to shows. I stopped going out to like hangouts with my friends. And like, I just never had time to do anything. And I lived across the street from a venue in Echo Park that called the Echo and the Echoplex, that like every good band came through. They'd have grind shows in the small room. They'd have bigger shows in the big room. They'd do festivals. They did the Power of the Riff festival. And it was like, I could literally walk 150 feet to the door of that place. And like, once the goalie mask business took off, I just stopped going to shows. I just didn't have any time or energy. And if I did have the time, I wanted to, hang out with my girlfriend or, whatever, it's wild life of a professional artist.
Yep. It's never ending.
It really is. It really is. I'm glad that you found the tattooing thing, and that is something that is going to give you some new energy to learn a new skill, because I've been watching you do it. And aside from the fact that you were really good at it right away, which we mentioned was a little bit maddening, it's fun watching you get even better. On top of that. And so I'm excited to stay on top of your Instagram and keep track of what you're doing with that stuff. Have you ever thought about doing YouTube stuff? Do you have a YouTube channel at all?
I do have one, but I think I've only put like one or two time-lapse videos on there. Back when I was doing all pen and ink stuff, I would just videotape pretty much everything. But I've been relying on my iPad for like 99% of everything so long, because I'm all over the place, and I just keep it with me at all times, because I never know if like my car's going to break down or
and I can work until the tow truck comes.
Yeah, exactly. And, or if like I went to New Hampshire recently to pick up a guitar, but one of my clients needed a file. I was like, well, luckily I got this stuff with me, but, I'm digressing a little bit. I do that a lot.
That's fine.
So anyway, So going back to the YouTube channel, I've been thinking about, doing more video production stuff, mainly for the band. And of course, like, one of the things that I started doing during the pandemic was, Moog put out their mini Moog Model D app. So I just started learning a bunch of songs, like pop songs, themes, stuff like that, on this Moog app, because it was just really fun. And that was picking up a lot more traction than I was expecting. And then right when I got like really good at it, I stopped because it was just taking up too much time.
Of course.
But I've been thinking, so I've been thinking about, once I get caught up with my commissions and I have a little bit more free time, I'm going to try to do a YouTube channel that is like dedicated more towards the Moog stuff.
Sure.
And most likely what will happen is I'll end up doing some more art stuff. But it's just, right now, it's one of those things that, like, I can't think about anything else aside from just getting commissions done and tattooing and band practice. So
Sure. Two things real quick. Yes, I totally understand that. But what I would say, just from my experience of the last 3 months of building this podcast and the YouTube channel goes with it, and then, looking into starting an art channel, dude, people love to watch people work. And if it's an easy thing for you to do, it will expand your audience so much, especially for your tattoo stuff, like building your tattoo brand.
Yeah.
If you just make videos as part of that, like, dude, I think that you'll be surprised at what you'll get back out of it. And then the other thing I had wanted to ask you that you just touched on a little bit is if you're working completely digital now, or do you still do actual pen and ink drawings?
The last pen and ink drawing that I completed start to finish was a private commission back in like April of last year. And there have been a couple other projects where I was like, you know what, I'm going to start this on Scratchboard or Clayboard or something like that, and just, try different techniques. But I spend so much time learning new stuff that it ends up like I get way too close to the deadline, and I'm like, all right, well, I guess I'm going to just scan this as is. I'm going to finish it in the iPad and Procreate. So, I mean, it's been 99.99% digital for the last close to 3 years. And I mean, once I have some more free time, I would love to get back into pen and ink, because it's just, as much as I love working digitally, there's nothing that can replicate the feeling of a crow quill nib hitting paper, like just, I love that grit. I love the drag. I love to be able to like taper and swell all my lines.
Sure.
And you can get the same effects on Procreate, but it's still not the same,
Yeah. I switched over to like a tablet monitor like 3 years ago. And then in the last year and a half, I managed to get myself one of the big Cintiqs. And so I went from like a cheap tablet monitor to like a super high end Cintiq. And I haven't drawn on paper in 3 years. Like I haven't done any drawings at all in 3 years. And I probably will now that I'm going to be making this art channel, because I just want to have as many different ways to show what I'm working on and just different projects. So I'll start drawing again on paper, but I don't miss it, man. Like just being able to undo, if you've done a section of like hatching and you're like, I do not like where that is, you can just undo that shit and you don't have to white it out. It's like, I know that there are purists who are like, everything should, it's like they still want everybody to work on paper. And it's like, man, I'm not that person at all.
Yeah.
Like
you can do more digitally too. And it's so much more efficient. It's cost effective. And, when you are doing commissions for people and you have deadlines, like you need that versatility. And you need that efficiency.
Yeah, for sure.
So,
100%.
I mean, yeah, and I've gotten some shit from some of the purists, and I'm like, listen, I paid my dues. I went to art school. I got my BFA in illustration. I know how to use this stuff. Like, it shouldn't matter how I'm getting it done. It's
right. It really shouldn't matter.
It's like like you can think that all you want. It's not going to stop people from hiring me to do what I do.
Right.
So
yeah, I've shouted my mentor James Ryman out before on the show, and he was an art director that I worked with in the games industry, and he left to do his own illustration work. He works for Wizards of the Coast and Games Workshop, and he does stuff for Warhammer, and he's like an insane level of artist that I anything, if I got one droplet of skill passed off from that guy into my skill set, I was very lucky, and I'm not sure I did, but he was really big on that when he was like, dude, don't listen to anybody who tells you like not to paint with black or any other dumb rule. He's like, just make art. If it looks cool and it looks good, like don't worry about what people tell you. Do what is working for you. And so like, I took that shit to heart 25 years ago, and like, I don't worry about it. Like I make what I want to make, how I want to make it. And you can fuck off if you don't like it.
Yeah. The only rule that I think should matter is just don't plagiarize other people's work.
Sure.
Otherwise it should not matter how you are achieving the thing that you want to make creatively. I mean, I think that everyone who is trying to make art should know some fundamentals.
Sure.
But I mean, you can learn fundamentals digitally just the same as, analog or whatever you want to call it. So that's, there's a lot of people who just like to have an opinion, and most of those people aren't doing what we're doing.
Right. They're not in the trenches.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think one of the things that's tough especially in the heavy metal art industry is plagiarism. Like you see a lot of guys who do Photoshop work where they just grab stuff off of the internet and then put it into a composition and then kind of just paint over it. and to a certain extent,
Yeah.
I think everybody uses reference, and like I get that, and I think that that's totally fine. But if you're just like taking somebody else's zombie, and then putting it into your composition and repainting it, and to go back to my mentor James Ryman had that happen, and I won't call out the band because I know some guys in the band that the artist who did a cover for them just took one of his paintings of a zombie and just did a paint over on top of it. And I saw it, and I literally, I sat 4 desks over, and I was like, James, you need to come see this, dude. And I like show him, and he's like, what the fuck, man? He's like, and so it's like that shit happens, and like I get inspiration, and I get using reference for composition and things like that, but it's like a real thing to like you see artists all the time where it's like, check this out, somebody just took a piece of my thing and put it in their thing, that's
one of the and one of the most frustrating aspects of that. I've only seen it with like maybe 2 or 3 artists. They will get called out by everybody on the internet, and even the companies that they work for will be called out, or the bands that they work for, and whoever's hiring them will say, well, they're still giving us a quality product, so we're going to keep using them. Like, we know that that's wrong. And it's like, why are you going to actively pay somebody who's stealing from other artists?
Yeah.
That just sucks.
Isn't there a website dedicated to that, to plagiarism in metal art? I think I've seen that before.
I can't remember the exact name. I haven't been following it for years.
Same.
I don't know if they've still put stuff in there, but I think it was like just something simple like plagiarism in metal art or something. But there's like, chunks of like Frank Frazetta and Bernie Wrightson paintings that have just been like cut and pasted, and then it's like, I'm just going to change the hue and the saturation, and like, or cut like there was an aborted album cover that had something like, those guys didn't know.
Right. The bands never know. The bands and the label never know. They're always the last to find out.
Yeah. And so that's another thing, is that like, no one should be giving bands shit for this stuff.
Yeah,
unless
agreed.
they're saying like, yeah, we know, and we're going to still use them.
Right.
That's shitty.
Yeah, that's lame.
But it's like, you could see, it's like, oh, the top of this body is from this Frank Frazetta painting, and the bottom of this body is from this like poster for the very popular movie Zombie. So like, what do you think? No one's going to notice that just because you change the colors?
Right, dude.
It's like the shape, the composition, everything's the same. It's just I just don't get how people think that they can get away with that shit.
Yeah. Like I try to collect a ton of different like crap, skulls and candles and random shit, and I will put together a composition of things, take a picture of it, and then use that. So I try to get as much of my own random shit that I can composite together to like I have a bunch of like different types of skulls, like cartoony skulls and and superhuman realistic human skulls, and like just take pictures of that, and I'll just make my own stuff out of that as much as I can. Or like, I'm doing something for Exhumed. I need a fucking, a radial saw blade. Like I will go find that online and then, use that as my template for what I'm doing. Cause it's like such a standard item in life, but to take somebody else's art. Yeah. That's a weird thing to do. And
it really is. And with today's technology, especially with specifically the iPad, since I've been using that for so long, I'm always on the hunt for new reference material apps. You can download almost anything for free, or like up to maybe $10.
Sure.
That will give you all the reference that you need, whether it's a human, an animal, a skull, a skeleton, any sort of object. It's all there. It's like, it's very rare that I'll have to go on the internet and find something to use as reference.
Right. So, and nowadays, even with like human stuff, like you can get 3D posers that like you can set a person up in the exact and just render off a frame and work from that. I just finished a box cover for a board game. And I totally I needed to have like 5 or 6 characters running. So I just built the scene in one of these poser apps. And so I could get the perspective right, 'cause I'm terrible at perspective. And so if I cheat anywhere, that's where I cheat. And yeah, it like worked great. I was like, this is fucking amazing. Like, I don't, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So yeah, that's crazy. That's weird that we got off on this little tangent, because it's such a unspoken thing between all of us artists. It's definitely it's one of those things that I don't think people who are in the metal scene really understand happens to the level that it does. I know. Are you familiar with Gary Ronaldson, Bite Radius Design?
Oh yeah.
Gary, shout out Gary.
What's up, Gary?
He gets that like a lot, man. Like I've seen a bunch of stuff that he posts where people just, and it's like, it's too weird, man.
Yeah.
Especially when you have such a crazy defined style like Gary. Like everybody's gonna know, dudes. Like everybody's gonna know. You know, it's like you could get away with it with someone like his.
Yeah, I see it happen with God Machine too a lot.
God,
I don't know him, but like I see all these like shitty pop-up overnight apparel companies.
Oh yeah, they just straight up steal his
like
art off of the web and make t-shirts out of it. That is a whole, the bootleg merch thing is a whole nother hour-long conversation that we could have. Because it's like these companies sprout up, they steal a bunch of art from the internet, and they start making shirts, and then when they get cease and desist orders, they just shut down, start a new one with a new name. You know, I kind of made my bones as an artist in the gig poster community, doing rock posters, and I was like one of the guys, only people doing extreme metal band screen printed posters, you know, in the 2000s. And that even now, like just to have these t-shirt companies just grab a poster, just like a poster for a show, and just like start making shirts out of it. All of my Illustrator friends, like on the weekly, are like, oh, these guys are at it again, and they've taken like 5 of my posters and are making shirts out of them.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, it's happened with several of the designs that I've done for Pig Destroyer and Agoraphobic Nosebleed. And it's like, you know,
with the actual band names on it, or they take the band names off and just print the shirt?
Both. You know, so like there was a Texas Chainsaw Massacre themed shirt for Nosebleed. And I've seen it bootlegged as Agoraphobic Nosebleed shirt and as a Texas Chainsaw Massacre branded thing. It's like, this isn't like, and it's clear that it's not the actual Leatherface, because it's a guitar that's been turned into a chainsaw ripping up a metal dude. Like, that's not, no movie merchandise is going to exist with that on it. But people are still like, oh, this is so cool, I bought 2. Like that other thing, like the lack of common sense of some of these people who see that and are like, you know, oh, I just want it, give it to me. They don't think about it at all. So yeah, we'll have to do like a part 2 and part 3 on this shit.
The funny thing about my art career is, and I'm not sure if it's a compliment or if it's a complete diss, is that it's only happened to me once with one design. Yeah. And I don't know if it's because my shit's not good enough for anybody to steal, or if I've just been super lucky.
Yeah, I don't know, man. It's a tough one. It's a tough one to field.
Yeah, I did a poster. One of the first like posters that like got me kind of noticed was I did a poster for Nile, for one of their shows, and somebody took the mummy character off of that and like started a streetwear style clothing company around this like Egyptian skull. And it was like, and it was like so terribly stolen and awful. And I was like, you know, I hit him up and I was like, you know, this sucks. Like, you shouldn't do that. And they're like, oh, I'm sorry. It was something that I just found, and we'll stop. And so they were super nice, and they stopped. And other than that, I've been pretty fortunate. Either that or it's happened a bunch and I just it's never been called to my attention. You know, who knows?
Yeah. It's hard to see everything out there because the internet is such a vast universe.
I kind of assume at this point that anything I put on the internet is it's gonna get stolen at some point, or reused or repurposed, or somebody's gonna have something stupid to say about it. And so I just decided that if the price of admission to being a professional artist in this generation is having a social media account, I was just going to have thick skin about that shit and not get upset if people said mean things, and not get upset if people, you know, virtue signaled on it, or if it made somebody angry, or I said something stupid. I just realized that as long as I was always trying to be respectful of other people and the things that I was doing, and my interactions with people were also respectful, that I would probably be able to avoid any major fucking drama online. And I've been pretty lucky so far, but I just decided that I had to have a thick skin about it, and whatever I put out is going to have to live with whatever comes of that, you know?
Yeah. I kind of, I might be in the minority, but I love when people have bad things to say to me because I can give it right back tenfold.
Right. Well, you're from New England, and that's part of like just the whole upper Northeast. I had another guy on that I was talking to who's an author, and he's writing a book about heavy metal demos from the 80s. And, you know, he's from upstate New York, and he's like, he moved out to California. He's like, people in California don't do that like East Coast people.
Oh, yeah. No. It was.
He's like, people get offended if you stand up to them or bust their balls. And he's on the East Coast, nobody gives a shit. It's how we talk to each other.
Yeah. One of my favorite things about San Diego is that like anybody you passed was like, "Hey, how's it going?" And you could tell that they were genuinely just like stoked to be alive. And I'm like, yeah, like there was the first week I was there, I got a bike, took a bike ride to a coffee shop, and I started talking about beer with some guy in line. He's like, "Oh, you said you like sours, right?" And I said, "Yeah." So he went to his car and he got this 750 of rare barrel cherry guys. And I was like, "All right, cool. I guess I'll keep an eye out for this." And he's like, "No, I'm giving it to you. It's for you." And I'm like, "Really? All right."
You're like, I'm not going to have sex with you, dude.
Yeah. But if someone, so I was pumped. He's like, "Yeah, man, we got like, we're part of the beer club, like the membership or whatever. We got like 4 of these and they're going to go bad before we have time to drink them. So like, here you go. Welcome to California." And I was like, "Sick. This is awesome." But if someone did that in Massachusetts, I'd be like, "What the fuck did you do to this?" or what do you want from me? So, but it's a double-edged sword because as nice as everyone is out there, like my scathing sarcasm and like, I don't want to say self-deprecating humor, but just like, I just love pushing the envelope of negative humor, whether it's like about myself or my friends or my family or anybody. Sure. It's just like, we just love to roast each other. They did not get that. So I'd be at a party telling jokes and they're like, "Hey man, is everything okay?" Like, yeah, it's fine, but I wish you guys would laugh at my fucking jokes, you know?
Right. That is definitely a thing. It's definitely a thing. And I notice it too. Like, even like when I'm interacting online, like I just can't bring myself to be shitty to people who are being shitty, you know? And it's like, I have friends from all over the country here. Like, "Man, you put up with people's bullshit like way too fucking long." And I'm like, I just don't need to, like, it's that whole going back a little bit to the chaos magic, like where you put your energy and focus is what comes back to you. And so I just try to keep my fucking focus and my energy away from shit that isn't helpful to me. So when I see someone being or saying something fucking stupid, I can just be like, "Whatever, man, that's your shit. I don't need to absorb it," you know? And maybe that's just more of me, and less of being a Californian, because I definitely know a bunch of people out here who are just fucking assholes. I mean, I play hockey, you know, I'm in a locker room with fucking, 15 dudes, and they're all fucking assholes. You know, I'm like the only guy sitting in the corner, just, laughing at their roasting and not joining in on it. But I'm good at it because my dad is like an expert, top-notch roaster. So I come from a long tradition of really good roasting skills, but I just don't, it's not my thing anymore, I guess. I got too old. But I love it. I love to listen and I love to watch people who are good at it.
Yeah. Yeah. You just got to do what works for you. So.
Exactly, man. I just want to, to kind of put a bow on it a little bit, to go back to what we were talking about in the beginning, is like, I just want to keep being able to do what I do professionally. I don't ever want to have to go back to a job. And so, not that this isn't a job, but I have a 400 square foot art studio that I can make anything I ever wanted and ever dreamed of. And I worked really hard to get to the point where I have this, and I just want to always make sure that, I'm focusing my personal energy into fucking keep doing that,
Yeah, I hear you. Absolutely.
Cool, man. This was a super rad chat, and I hope that you want to come back again and do this
Yeah,
again for sure. Especially like if
definitely.
something's going on with your band, you guys got a record coming out or something like that, and you want to come back and do a short shot about what you got going on with your tattooing or with your band or whatever, dude. You're welcome to come back anytime.
Sick. Yeah, there's going to be plenty of stuff to talk about.
Awesome.
All sorts of different projects, musically, artistically. We'll see. I'm gonna start cooking more vegan and vegetarian stuff because I wanna try to trick people into thinking that it's meat. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. Give it a few
quick shout on that before we go is that the last time I did a big barbecue, my daughter graduated from nursing school and she had all of her friends over, and I did a shitload of pulled chuck roast and pulled pork and stuff. But I had some vegan friends, vegan family coming. And so I did jackfruit, like pulled jackfruit.
Yeah.
But I treated it exactly like I was treating the pork. So I smoked it and I used the same seasonings and I used the same sauces and all of it was vegan. And it turned out really good, man. Like if somebody handed it to you and didn't tell you, it might be hard to tell.
Yeah. So quick shout out to one of my favorite clients and one of my favorite cocktail bars and restaurants in San Diego is called Kindred. They're in South Park, and they've hired me for a bunch of stuff, and it is the best vegan food I've ever had in my life. They have this like barbecue, like Memphis style barbecue jackfruit sandwich that is amazing, and these seitan skewers. Like anytime I go back to San Diego, I just want to flood myself with their food. And if you're into tiki drinks too, it's just an amazing place. So
yeah, I talked about that a little bit with another guest. Are you familiar with Karen Hazmat Design?
I don't think
she's
so.
like a metal merch person. But we talked about, because she's vegan, and we talked about just the fact that it's such a viable option now that the skill of vegan cooking has advanced so much that forever I did not, anytime I had vegan food, I was like, it's just like, there's so much good stuff in that realm now. And, when I was in DIS, we're pretty fucking crusty band. And so when we toured, it was a lot of like staying in punk squats. And then in Europe, they feed you everywhere you go. So it was like 6 weeks of vegan food, and it was always super hit or miss. It was like some places totally, you could never tell it wasn't regular. And then some places it was like, I'm going to the fucking the gas station to get a chicken sandwich or something,
Yeah. Take that gamble.
Yeah, totally. Dude, I made the chicken sandwich gamble on tour a lot.
Yeah. Hey, we've been there. We've all been there. It's a rite of passage.
Yeah, for sure. And if when bands can tour again, if you guys tour and you're ever out in Los Angeles, I will tell you to let me know, and I will do my best to come and see you, or let you guys have a place to crash at my place or whatever. But we'll stay in touch that way if bands ever get to play again.
Yeah, we'll see. I'm going to give it another year or so, I'm guessing.
Yeah,
but
we'll see.
I got plenty of stuff to keep me busy in the meantime.
Exactly. All right, man, I'm going to let you go about your day. Thanks again for coming in, dude. It was super cool talking to you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, you're very welcome. Thank you.
Cool.
All right, later.